Hello there everyone and welcome once again to the Train Aid HQ. My name is Nick and in today's video we are going to be looking at the Level 3 Award in Education and Training, and we are going to be uncovering how to create your very own 15-minute micro-teach lesson. So if you're new here, please do like the video and subscribe to the Train Aid YouTube channel to receive the latest alerts and updates from the Train Aid team. So let's get straight into the video. So we are looking at the Level 3 Award in Education and Training, and we are going to be looking at the micro-teach element to the qualification. So as we know, we have 3 written assignments and also a 15-minute micro-teach lesson that you will need to complete in order to receive your Level 3 Award in Education and Training certificate from ourselves here at Train Aid. So the qualification has 3 written assignments. Unit A, which looks at the roles and responsibilities of a teacher. Unit B, which looks at inclusion, and also Unit C, which is assessment methods. But one of the big elements, of course, as we know, is the 15-minute micro-teach. This is the practical lesson. So we're going to look through the different stages of your micro-teach and give you lots of help and advice when delivering your 15-minute micro-teach lesson. Okay. So preparing for your 15-minute micro-teach. So let's have a look at some advice that we can give you if you're new to preparing your very own micro-teach. Let's have a look at some guidance. So my advice is to keep it simple. So your 15-minute micro-teach lesson plan should be no more than 2 pages and really go for a topic that you are confident with, okay? Don't try to cover too much, okay? Keep it simple, keep it active, and be confident with your subject matter. So when selecting your 15-minute micro-teach topic, please do choose something that you can talk about for 15 minutes and you are confident with your subject and delivery. And be open to questions from your fellow learners, from your class, and make sure that you're confident when answering questions as well. A very important factor is to time yourself, okay, for 15 minutes. So obviously do try and have some practice goes of your micro-teach. So do trial your micro-teach a few times, and also to keep time, whether you're using a stopwatch, your own mobile phone to keep track of your timing. That is best practice, okay? Be prepared to answer any questions from learners, so they will be quite interested and curious about your subject area. So think about the questions which they might ask you in advance, okay? So that will allow for you to prepare for your micro-teach as well. Any videos that you would like to show to your micro-teach class, that is absolutely fine, but I would say no more than a 2-minute video. And it's always good to have a video activity that learners can complete whilst watching the video as well, to make sure that they are active when watching the video and they're not passive as well. So maybe just a Q&A printed Word document so they can write down some notes whilst watching the video perhaps. My advice again is to do a trial run of your micro-teach. This could be showing your micro-teach perhaps to your fellow peers or work colleagues. And if you do trial run your micro-teach in preparation to your big day, that is going to make you a lot more confident when you deliver your micro-teach on your class as well. So you could trial run your micro-teach for perhaps some fellow work colleagues or friends, just to make sure that it runs smoothly as well. Another key factor is IT. Make sure that you prepare this in advance, okay, so there's no hiccups on the day. It's always good to have a plan B exercise, so if IT does fail, okay, it does happen, okay, but maybe think about ways that you could overcome those potential barriers as well. So do check out your IT, any videos and IT connections as well. My last key point before we have a look into some microteach topics is if you're planning to use perhaps PowerPoint, just keep it to 5 slides as a minimum, as a bit of a guide. So try to make sure that your PowerPoint, your microteach is not too PowerPoint slide heavy, otherwise you might get lost in obviously passing over a lot of information. So my advice is to keep it simple when it comes to your microteach and don't cover too much. Okay, so let's have a look at selecting a microteach topic. Okay, we've seen many different microteach topics over the years here at TrainAid, and once again my advice is to keep it simple and go for a topic that you're confident within. Okay, here are some considerations, okay, when deciding your topic. You could select perhaps a hobby or an interest, okay. It could be perhaps a favourite holiday destination. It could be perhaps your favourite sports team, okay. It could be the history of a topic that you're very passionate about. It could be you demonstrating a skill, for example. So microteach lessons don't need to be theory based, they can be practical based. So you could demonstrate a skill to your learners and ask them to replicate that skill that they have learnt. Okay, it could be work related training. Okay, so perhaps you are teaching something that you will be demonstrating to your colleagues at work. So it could be something work related as well. So your learners, I'm sure they'll be very interested in what you do within your own career as well. So perhaps some demonstrating some work related topic or training. It could be a practical activity once again, okay? So your PowerPoint or your microteach might not even include PowerPoint, it might not include IT, and it could be something practical such as dancing or fitness related as well. So go with your strengths when choosing your microteach topic. Now just behind me, we've put together a slide on the most common microteach topics that we've encountered here at TrainAid to date, okay? You can make it your own, your 15 minutes. We've had cake decorating, we've seen that before. That's obviously quite a practical microteach. It could be circuit training, a drawing activity, for example, teaching first aids, golf putting, hair braiding, how to change a bike tyre, map reading, line dancing, even talking perhaps about leadership styles as well, poetry, origami. We have seen it all, okay? So do select a microteach topic that you are confident within, okay? If you do have any questions about your microteach topic, please do get in contact with us. We will point you in the right direction and we'll find one that you are confident within. So once you have chosen your microteach topic, it's now the focus of your actual lesson plan itself. So we need to come up with a lesson aim, and we are going to put our aim onto our microteach lesson plan. So let's have a look at this concept of the lesson aim, and let's find out some more information on what the lesson aim is all about. So what is the lesson aim? So the lesson aim is the big picture, okay? So the aim is what teachers and also learners want to achieve in a lesson or a course, okay? So a lesson aim is the big picture. It's what you as a teacher or trainer would like learners to achieve by the end of the lesson. So the aim of a lesson is what the teacher and learners want to be able to do by the end of the lesson. So hopefully the lesson will come full circle and you achieve your aim, okay? So it's setting out the big picture, it's setting out very much a challenge for all learners to achieve this particular goal by the end of the 15 minutes, okay? So when creating your own lesson aim, think about what you would like your learners to achieve by the end of the lesson, the big picture, as it were, okay? So if you're writing your microteach, start to think about the lesson aim itself, okay? What you would like your learners to achieve by the end of the lesson. So here we have some keywords that you can use when creating your lesson aim. So many learners think, how do I write an aim? Okay, so don't worry. Here we have some keywords. So just in the red, we've highlighted just what we think would be a good lesson aim. So the aim of this lesson is to introduce the topic of, okay? And so you're introducing your learners to your very own chosen microteach topic. The aim of the lesson is to investigate how to, and there we go, we can input our microteach topic there. And the aim of the lesson is to examine how to. So you could use perhaps one of these three buzzwords when creating your very own lesson aim. Okay, so the aim of the lesson is to introduce the topic of, and then you can insert your microteach topic as well. So you just need to create an aim. It doesn't need to be too long, perhaps a line, two lines maximum of your chosen lesson aim. Okay, but my advice is to keep it simple and think about what you would like your learners to achieve by the end of the 15 minutes. So just on my next slide, we have some lesson aim examples. So here at TrainAid, we specialise within first aid, okay? So one of my lesson aims could be to investigate how to perform CPR correctly and check learners' previous knowledge of the first aid topic. So I could teach my learners how to perform CPR on our first aid mannequins. Okay, so I'm confident within that subject area, so I could teach everyone how to perform CPR correctly. So that could be obviously one topic that I go for if I was to choose my microteach topic. Another one could be to investigate which items should be present within a company first aid kit or a first aid box. So once again, if I was to choose that first aid topic, I could show everyone the first aid kit, and we could examine together what items go within a first aid box, for example. So other examples could be to introduce the topic of manual handling and to check learners' previous understanding of manual handling policies. That could be an example as well. And also to examine how to apply a triangular bandage to a casualty. So we could use the first aid manual within that topic to find out a bit more about how to apply a triangular bandage as well. So these, once again, are just some aims of microteach aims. You could obviously use the buzzwords to create one specific aim for your very own microteach. But once again, folks, please keep it as simple as possible. A line to two line is absolutely fine. So if you want to perhaps pause the video now, you can certainly do that and come up with your microteach aim. Okay. So here we have my aim here, and it's to investigate how to perform CPR correctly and check learners' previous knowledge of the first aid topic. So my aim is just going above my lesson plan, so it's nice and clear, and later on in the video I will be looking at each stage of the microteach and giving lots of pointers there. So keep it simple and just have an aim at the very top of your microteach lesson plan. Okay. Let's move on to lesson outcomes. So lesson outcomes are otherwise known as lesson objectives, okay? So after creating our aim, we're now going to be looking at this key term of lesson objectives or lesson outcomes. So let's have a look at what these mean first. So lesson objectives or outcomes within the teaching and training world are the individual stages that learners must achieve on the way in order to achieve the lesson aim. So as we know, the aim is the big picture, but lesson objectives or outcomes are the steps that learners will encounter on achieving their their aim, the big picture. So learners will achieve these outcomes or objectives in order to achieve the aim as well. So it's very important to include lesson objectives or outcomes, is so we know what to cover within the actual lesson plan itself, and what should your microteach contain. So my advice is to include a minimum of 2 lesson outcomes or targets within your lesson plan, okay? So you know as a teacher what your microteach should cover. And let's have a look at a table of lesson objectives. So when creating your lesson objectives, you can think about the key words of knowledge, understanding, application, analysis, synthesis, and also evaluation. So here we have a table of excellent words which you can select your microteach objectives from. So we do have some key words here, such as demonstrate, analyze, arrange, construct. So all of these are fantastic action words, okay, and which are going to help us to create our very own objectives. Let's have a look at some examples which you can use. So on your outcome or objectives, you could perhaps select sort of key words such as learners will explain, learners will design, learners will discuss, learners will list, learners will state. So here we just have a few key lesson outcome examples which you could select. So think about things which your learners will cover during your microteach lesson. Try to avoid the phrase to understand within your objectives. That's quite a passive word. Learners aren't really active and involved here. So do try to select 2 lesson outcomes which are going to be quite action focused as well. Okay, so let me give you an example of 2 of my lesson objectives. So here I have the aim, so it's obviously focusing on how to perform CPR. Now, the 2 outcomes, learners will identify the stages of how to perform CPR, and learners will demonstrate how to perform CPR. So within the microteach, the one which I am going to obviously demonstrate, I would like all of my learners to identify and to say the stages of how to perform CPR, and they will also demonstrate how to perform CPR as well. So here we have obviously the theory and the practical side of CPR as well. But just when creating your objectives, try and select 2 key words, and this is going to help create some action focused learning outcomes as well. So if you want to pause the video, okay, and create your 2 lesson objectives, please do so, okay. And we are now going to look at the lesson introduction, okay. And we're going to give you some advice here on how to begin your very own 15-minute microteach. Okay, so we have our aim, we have our objectives, and now we need to think about starting your 15-minute microteach. So my advice is to keep it simple. Introduce yourself, explain the aim and objectives of the lesson, okay, along with any housekeeping and ground rules here. So my advice is to keep this concise. 15 minutes is a very short period of time, so you need to hit the ground running with your microteach. It's also good practice to have an icebreaker at the beginning of your microteach, okay? And once again, keep it simple. So here are some ideas that you could take forward for your 15-minute microteach. So an icebreaker idea is all learners to state their name and prior knowledge of the topic as well. So just asking everyone to introduce themselves and to say their previous knowledge of the topic. Learners could introduce themselves to the group, and they could also say an interesting fact about themselves. That's quite fun, that's quite engaging as well. Another idea here is that learners could introduce each other to the rest of the group as well. So learners could decide to, for example, they could introduce perhaps a partner to the rest of the class. Another key example is 2 truths and 1 lie, okay? So this is quite a long-winded icebreaker where learners decide to introduce themselves by saying 3 statements, and that is 2 truths and 1 lie. So that is a topic which probably is best for a longer period of time there. But my advice is to state your aim, objectives, and then go into the icebreaker and keep it simple. My advice is to get everyone to state their name and their prior knowledge of the subject area as well. Okay, so let's just have a look back at my 15-minute micro-teach lesson plan. So here we have the lesson plan, okay, and I have my first row. As we can see, we have the timings, trainer activities, learner activities, we have resources, inclusion, assessment methods, and also functional skills as well. So you could have the time and also the trainer activities. So introduction, the teacher will introduce themselves to the group. The teacher will explain the aims and objectives of the lesson. The teacher to ask learners for their previous knowledge of first aid and CPR practice. The teacher will explain the ground rules and housekeeping rules, okay? And we also have the learner activities. The learner will individually introduce themselves to the class. Learners will explain their prior knowledge and first aid and CPR practice experience as well. So we're setting the scene, we're saying the aim and objectives, and we're asking learners to really to say their previous knowledge of first aid as well. So myself as the teacher, well, I can see how experienced they are within first aid. And we also have resources, okay? So obviously PowerPoint presentation, and we also have first aid handbooks, which we are going to give to each individual learner as well. We have inclusion, and that inclusion column is all about how you as a teacher are going to introduce and keep everyone involved within the lesson. So you could have obviously questions, whether they are individual or nominated. They could be open questions as well. So everyone is included because everyone will introduce themselves and explain their previous experience of first aid and CPR. We have assessment methods as well. So this is making sure that you're asking questions at every stage of your micro teach, and you're also getting your learners involved. You're assessing them, okay? So we have nominated questions. So this here is asking everyone to really find out about their first aid experience. And we have functional skills as well. So functional skills, as we know, are numeracy, language, literacy, and also digital, so ICT skills here as well. So at every stage of your micro teach, do try to encourage your learners to reflect on their functional skills, okay? Every activity that we have within our micro teach, we're wanting learners to focus on and improve their functional skills topic as well. So once we have our introduction, okay, so our aim and objectives, we talked about them, we've done an icebreaker, we are now going to look at the first activity, okay? So just going back to my lesson plan, this should be the second row on my micro teach. So this is after the introduction, we're going to now look at the first activity. So here we have some first activity examples. So the teacher could explain their topic to the class. So this could be sort of a lecture style focus. Perhaps you would like to show some PowerPoint slides and to talk about your micro teach. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? So this could be you talking about your topics to the class. You could have nominated and open questions that you give to learners. Perhaps you discuss the topic further and you're asking questions. You could show a video activity to your learners. The teacher could demonstrate a skill to the class as well. So that is going to be a topic that you could obviously demonstrate, a practical activity. Okay, so after the introduction, I think that the first activity should be the teacher focus, that you are going to talk about your topic, or you could perhaps demonstrate a skill or a practical activity. So this first activity is going to be teacher focused. Okay. Now, just going back to my lesson plan, here we have an example. So if it was myself, I would show a 2-minute video looking at CPR, okay? And I would also ask for my learners to write down 5 key points of CPR as well. So whilst they're watching the video, I would like for them to stay active, and I would like for them to write down some key points on how to perform CPR as well. The learners will watch the video on CPR and they'll write down a minimum of 5 key points on how to perform CPR. After the video, I'll test their knowledge, of course. And in terms of resources, there'll be a PowerPoint that I'm using, a handout, pens, a CPR video from YouTube. Inclusion, everyone will receive a handout in order to complete the video activity. Learners will also list 5 key points as well. So this is all to do with inclusion. Everyone is included. Assessment methods, we have nominated questions. So after the video, I'm going to nominate each individual to say 1 key fact of how to perform CPR. And also, in terms of the key functional skills, literacy is embedded, as learners must write 5 key points of how to perform CPR, and also numeracy is also embedded as well. So this is because every learner must write down 5 key points of how to perform CPR. So think about the first activity. So after the introduction, it's very much down to you as a teacher to really explain your topic to your learners. And I think a good activity here perhaps is a short video or a demonstration of a practical task. But the first activity should really be explained by yourself as a teacher. Okay, so once again, you can obviously pause the video. So you can obviously write down your first activity. And now we're going on to the main activity here. So the main activity is going to be the main part of your microteach topic as well. So this is perhaps where you'll spend the most amount of time. This could be somewhere between 5 minutes or 7 minutes of your 15-minute microteach activity. So this is going to be the main part of your 15-minute microteach. Now here we have some examples. So if you've introduced your topic, if you've been teaching learners about your topic, you could then, for your main part of the microteach, you could ask learners to perform a practical task or an activity, or you could ask your learners to demonstrate a skill. So you could hand over the reins to your learners, okay, after you've explained how to perform perhaps the task. You could get your learners to perhaps demonstrate a skill to you. So other main activities, you could have a paired or a group work activity. So you could put your learners together, okay, so they can work together towards perhaps a specific focus. There could be a role play. So if you wanted to have a role play activity, that's a good idea. Learners could complete a written task, okay, so it could be a theory-based task, or it could be a discussion. Perhaps that could be the main focus of your microteach, is to have a discussion or a debate with your learners, okay? So the main activity, try to include your learners as much as possible. So if learners are active, if they're engaged within a task, this is going to help your microteach to flow better, and the time will fly within your microteach as well. So let's have a look at my 15-minute microteach lesson plan, and let's have a look at my main activity. So I am going to use our first aid mannequin, okay, and I am going to demonstrate to the class how to perform CPR using the mannequin. So I'm going to demonstrate that first, and then I'm going to get my learners to demonstrate what they have learned. So I'm going to demonstrate how to perform CPR, then I'm going to get my learners to demonstrate CPR as well. That is going to be the main focus of my 15-minute microteach, the main activity. So in terms of resources, I'm going to be using CPR mannequins and also our first aid handbooks again. So learners can have a look through the first aid handbook when they're performing CPR as well. So as I mentioned, this is going to be the main focus. Everyone is going to demonstrate their CPR skills as well. Within inclusion, everyone's going to be included. They're going to be working together as a pair on performing CPR on a mannequin, and they are going to be giving each other feedback through peer feedback as well. So by working in a pair, they can communicate and talk about their strengths and areas for development as well. So within the assessment methods column, there's going to be lots of peer feedback going on. So giving each other feedback in a positive way, so giving each other constructive feedback on CPR. Functional skills, language, every learner is going to explain the steps of how to perform CPR, and numeracy is also going to be used when counting the compressions when performing CPR as well. So once again, just to reiterate, this is going to be the main activity within my 15-minute lesson. So we're moving away from the theory side and we're moving on to the practical side as well. So within your own microteach, it can be sort of quite practical focused, but my advice is to really involve your learners as much as possible here. Once again, if you want to pause the video, you certainly can do, and think about your main activity, okay? My advice there is to keep it as practical as focused in involving your learners. Now we're just going to move on to the close of the lesson, okay? So after the main activity, you might have, I would say, 5 minutes, okay? You might even have less than that. So we need to think about winding the session down. So your lesson comes full circle. Now the close of the lesson, so how are we going to finish off our 15-minute microteach lesson? So it's always good to recap our aims and objectives. So we could have a true or a false quiz on the lesson topic. So you could have a true or false card that are printed to all learners, and you could ask questions to the learners and they could hold up the true card, also the false card, and that is checking that your learners have taken on board the aim and objectives of the lesson. You could ask each learner to recall one fact they have learnt from the lesson. So you could go around the room and ask your learners, please recall one fact or one thing that you've learnt from the lesson. There could be a short written test on the aims and objectives of the lesson, okay? So you could create perhaps a 5-question written test paper on the aims and objectives of the lesson. So this is checking that your learners have understood the aims and objectives. You could get your fellow learners to be a peer marker. They could mark each other's test papers. You could have a mobile phone quiz or a survey, okay? You could go for a quiz. You could use mobile phone apps such as Menti, SurveyMonkey, and also Socrative. These are free apps, but you can create the questions, and you could get your learners to use their mobile phones, for example, and they could complete perhaps a quiz or a survey on what they've learned from the lesson as well. But when you finish your main activity, it's really important to really sort of wind down the lesson and to assess your learners to see that they've taken on board the aim and objectives here as well. So when perhaps looking at our video, perhaps select one of these suggested ways that we can assess our learners' knowledge. So just going back to my lesson plan, okay, this can be just a 2-minute activity. So the teacher will recap the aim and objectives of the lesson, and I will have a very short CPR quiz. Okay, so I'm going to be using a quiz where I'm going to create a quick true and false quiz on CPR. So once again, I'm going to have a 2-minute quiz, just checking that my learners understand how to perform CPR correctly. So after their practical task, we're going to have a theory test, which is a bit of fun, just looking at CPR. Okay, so I will have a PowerPoint slide, I will have a CPR quiz, I'll have a handout here. Inclusion, everyone is going to partake within this quiz, and obviously open questions are going to be used to check learners' knowledge, their understanding of how to perform CPR as well. And in terms of functional skills, this is going to be fantastic for promoting literacy and also language as well. So learners are going to be reading the quiz questions, and also they're going to say about their answers as well. So they're going to describe their answers here. But this is going to help the flow of the lesson. After that main activity, that we are going to slow the lesson pace down. We're just going to bring our micro-teach lesson to a very quick close. Okay, so after perhaps the lesson quiz, okay, we just need to recap the aim and objectives of the lesson. So this is the final element to your lesson plan, okay? This is your final part of your 15-minute micro-teach. So this is where you, as a teacher, will repeat the aim and objectives of the lesson. So this is the 15-minute close of the lesson. Ask learners if they have any questions about your lesson. So do allow time for that. So learners will have some questions about your lesson because they're obviously quite curious about the lesson content as well. You could also signpost learners to any resources or websites you have used, okay? So be prepared. Your learners will ask you questions, and if they've liked your resource or the content, you could signpost them to different resources that you've demonstrated as well. And also thank learners for their time as well. So thank you very much for partaking within my micro-teach, and just end the lesson on a positive note. So do thank your learners for being involved within the lesson as well. So within my lesson plan example, I will recap the aim and objectives of the lesson. I will ask my learners if they have any questions with regards to the micro-teach, and I will also give my learners the opportunity to ask any questions about the micro-teach lesson as well. Okay, so a nice and simple aim. Thank you very much for watching the video on the micro-teach lesson breakdown. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. So if you do have obviously any questions regarding the Level 3 award in education and training, please do get in contact with the team here at TrainAid. Sorry, we have our contact number, we have our information email as well, we have our YouTube channel. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. We also have an Instagram account as well. If you have any questions regarding the Level 3 award in education training, the Level 4 certificate, or the Level 5 diploma in education training, please get in contact as well. But hopefully this video has given you some real guidance on how to break down your micro-teach, and offer some advice as well on how to create your micro-teach. But if you are struggling with your micro-teach, please don't hesitate to get in contact, and we will help you to create your 15-minute micro-teach lesson plan. That is all from myself today. So my name is Nick, and thank you very much for watching today, and we hope to see you on one of our courses. Bye for now.